What was your thank god it's over and I'll never have to do it again thing? Working on a house for the TV show Extreme Home Makeover. The worst 16 hours of my life. That sounds like an interesting story. My story is not as interesting as you may think. I'm a carpenter and my responsibility on that job was the kitchen cabinets. Also, I'm a terrible storyteller. Keep in mind that these houses are built in 1 week, including the demolition of old house. Normal build time is minimum of 6 months, on average, for a new build home. Our time slot was 4 PM, so get there at 3 PM. We also worked that day previous to showing up for this. It is just warm enough not to snow, so a very cold drizzle for most of the wait time in a 3-sided tent. We were freezing to say the least. Apparently the designers like to make changes on the fly, so not ready for us on time. Also, drywall mud takes time to dry, and it was not drying fast enough, so they tried to paint over semi-dried mud, which did not work, and set our time slot back further. There were several false starts too, meaning they told us we were a go. Got our adrenaline up, just to say, when we get to the door that actually, they are not ready. We finally get in there around 3 AM, and when I say the house is packed, I mean you can barely move to do your job without being in someone's way or someone in your way. We pre-installed the cabinets the day before in our warehouse, so to make installation quicker, pre-filled holes and such, but still took 6 hours to do what would normally be a 3-hour job. I was beyond tired by the time we were done. I actually started to cry at one point and had no idea why. Just an overwhelming sense that came over me and I could not control it. Now, mind you, I was not sobbing, just a steady stream of tears for a couple of minutes. I just worked through it and it stopped as suddenly as it started. I was up for a total of 30+ hours, and while not physically working that entire time, the stress from waiting and anticipating getting started and the starts and stops before getting started just wrecked me emotionally and physically. Guessing. Worst experience of my life. At first I was pretty okay with it all, believing that I was a part of something good that happened to somebody that deserved it. Turns out these people could not afford the upkeep on a house twice the size of the one they previously owned and had to sell it within a couple years, just like most other families on that appear on that show. Before the first year was up, they were even offering tours of the house at 10 or 15 a person, just to help cover the electric and gas bills. The show is really just about making money for the production company, not for the families actually needing help. If you are ever asked to assist on an Extreme Home Makeover house, decline and instead donate your time to Habitat for Humanity. They actually build houses for needy people and it actually helps the people, not bankrupt them. Edit: I cannot believe I forgot this part. The episode I worked on was the one where one of the on-air talents, the Irish guy not positive on nationality, cut his hand all up using a sculpting tool for a wooden flag he was making for the veteran home Iarwana. Basically it is a grinder, but with a chainsaw blade on it. He took the guard off to make the sculpting easier, and unfortunately it would end up being a bad decision. Do not worry, it is interesting, but that sucks, man. My father's a furniture designer and insisted on doing the house renovations ourselves, and even just doing it normal was not pleasant. I cannot imagine having to work in such a condition, both mental and physical. The stress, gosh. It is not likely for me to help out for home renovations. I'm an art student looking to study literature, but yeah, I will keep that in mind. Being in an MRI machine and being shot up with a vasodilator to make my heart rate jump. I was already anxious, but when that drug hit, I went straight into raw terror. They had pull me out of the machine and give me the reversal meds. My hands were so contorted they looked like lobster claws. I had a brain MRI and hated every second of it. Luckily made it through without incident and with negative diagnosis. Negative about the brain. Sounds like marine material to me. My life in academia. Glad I got my PhD. But once my dissertation was accepted, I noped out of academia entirely. The goal of research for the sake of advancing our collective knowledge is noble and all, but I'm not cut out for a lifetime of publish or perish. I always lump the publish or perish type jobs in with what I call rockstar jobs, like a music career, where either you make it big or you starve. This is insightful. I think you are right that there are a lot of similarities there. getting fired from a shitty job where I was drowning in work and doing all kinds of overtime. It was a great day. After they told me, I walked into my office to get my stuff and realized I never have to worry about any of this shit ever again. Went straight to the unemployment office and got awarded about 75% of my check. I was on unemployment for about 6 months until I finally found a much better job. Getting let go from my job was one of my biggest fears for a long time. Then when COVID hit and 90% of the company got laid off, I had time to realize how good I had been at my job and how truly shitty the company was. I will never go through that kind of anxiety again for a job. Exact same thing happened to me. It was like waking up after getting kicked out of a cult. Owning a money pit 1920s house. It was a maintenance nightmare. Never again. House was built in 1920, but way too many cases of what the duck. Also, plaster walls cracking just looking at them wrong. And my yard being an archaeological dig site anytime I go more than an inch down. My house was built in the late 1800s. I feel all of this, but I do enjoy the interesting stuff in the yard sometimes. I found a refuse pit a while back with broken pottery and old bottle caps. Last week I was demoing a flower bed and found what I think was the cistern, with clay pipes leading to my basement. But mostly I'm shocked how much fill is in my yard. Nothing but rocks in the top 6 inches. My parents randomly signed me up for football in 4th grade. I hated football, but I just did it because I had no friends and why not. Then for some reason I signed up to do another year of football after that. I knew I never wanted to play again once that season and the championships were over. I prayed before every game that we would lose, but we kept winning, which meant we had to keep playing. I was very annoyed. In the Final Four championship we lost by 3 points, and I was so excited we lost everyone else was crying, but I knew I did not have to dress up and play another game and be screamed at by grown adults anymore. My parents randomly signed me up to be in a competition choir when I was like 7 or 8. I had never expressed even a slight interest in singing, let alone doing it publicly. Solo scared the shit out of me. I tried out. I made it into the choir. I didn't want to be in the choir. Every Tuesday for a decade I was dragged to practice for 2 hours. I couldn't stand our performance outfits, which were inexplicably forest green sailor dresses with shoulder pads and drop waists. We were all expected to French braid our hair, which meant we had tiny little heads on huge, shoulder padded bodies. We looked like the Goombas from the live action Super Mario Bros. Movie. By the time I was approaching my senior year of high school, the choir directors hinted that I should give up ex-country running to focus more time on singing. I was a very competitive athlete at the time, so it was a bonkers suggestion. I cautiously brought up the idea of quitting choir so I could focus on ex-country and track. My parents were thrilled. I was thrilled. Why the hell did I do this shit for a decade when none of us really wanted to? A similar thing happened with me and ballet growing up. I initially wanted to do it at age 5, wanted to be a ballerina when I grew up. I also wanted to be a cat, so I'm not sure it was really wise to trust my judgment, but by age 9 I had no interest. By age 10 I disliked it and found it a chore, and by age 12 my mother pretty much had to drag me. I quit at age 12. I regret not quitting at 9 when my interest waned, but I felt pressured. My mother was using it as a form of physical therapy for me, and I think she thought I enjoyed it much longer than I did. It took me a few years before I started really expressing it, and I wish I had done so earlier, so my mother could have known I was not happy. It actually makes me feel better to know I am not the only one. I have a great relationship with my parents, so to this day, I honestly have no idea why it took me so long to be honest about how much I disliked choir. I think it partly had to do with the fact that I got involved at a young enough age where as a kid, you just expected you would get enrolled into things because you were a kid, and it was just kind of up to your parents to help you develop skills and interests. It then just became this chore that I had to do. It was like taking a math test or cleaning my room, an activity I didn't love. That was nevertheless part of my life, and something I just had to deal with. The straight up relief of telling my parents I didn't want to do it anymore was almost hilarious. I loved running, and my parents loved it too. and were super involved in my progress. I think we all kind of looked at each other like, well, shit, when we realized none of us were super married to the choir idea. LOL. Giving birth. When I had my daughter, her head was stuck, and I pushed for a full 3 hours until they used the vacuum to get her out, and needless to say I was wrecked down there. Birth with my twin boys was 6 weeks early and an emergency C-section, since one twin was in distress. It was fast, scary, and my kids were whipped out of the room before I ever saw them. I have 3 wonderful kids, but those were really intense days that were not remotely enjoyable. 3 hours. I gave birth last week and I pushed for what turned out to be 30 minutes and it felt like hours. Jesus, I'm sorry. Yes. 2 hours. 59 minutes of full-on pushing. And they had to stop my epidural completely because I could not feel anything with the first push. So I did it all drug-free. I really wish they had just given me a C-section or at least done the vacuum earlier. It was horrid. However, that being said, congratulations on your new baby. Damn. I kept on making sure they weren't going to turn my epidural off. I must have sounded like a crazy person. But thank you. Bar mitzvah. I did not really give a duck about it, but everyone else's expectations were so high that for the first time I started experiencing the anxiety disorder that would haunt me for a decade after that. He went through that too. But I enjoyed that cause I had a rad rabbi who had a pet crow. My wedding. I love my husband and we are happily married for over 13 years. But holy crap, actually getting married is stressful as duck. I hated planning it and budgeting and most of the process. But then actually standing in front of 100 plus people publicly speaking and having all eyes on me was something I was not prepared for as an introvert. So fingers crossed I never have to do that again. We were going through all that stress with planning and decisions and managing expectations of other family members. We were both dreading it because we hate being the center of attention. We just wanted to be married without all the fuss. In the end we decided this is our wedding. Duck what other people want, and got married at the registry office with immediate family only and had no reception. After that we went straight to the airport to go on our honeymoon. Greatest day of my life. Dumb question, what do people do at a honeymoon? Just a couple's holiday really, but you will probably push the boat out a bit more than a standard holiday. Lots of banging. Lots of eating. No kids around. Had my prostate removed because of cancer. Since you only have one, I guess I want to do that again. Do you miss it? Maybe he keeps it in a jar. That would make it real easy to massage. Smart. High school. I thought this, then I realized adulthood, the workplace was high school all over again. I am starting to realize this. I just started a new position at the place I work, and my coworkers are being so petty and talking about me behind my back. They all just feed off of the drama. Don't let it deter you. If you feel it necessary, move on and start fresh in a new job with more wisdom on personal relationships in the workplace, i.e. you realize the exceptionally kind person is one that is likely to be a problem when you let your guard down and become friends. And trust me, in 10 years, as you get older, this will all seem ridiculous and you will become immune to it. Getting a pedicure. I now know I hate people touching my feet. I ducking hate it. I have been about 3 times and I'm literally white knuckling the handrests, doing everything I can to not kick the staff in the face as they work on my feet the entire time. My friends turn to me like, nice. Right. And I'm just, yup. Feels great. So relaxing. I'm in damn heaven right now, absolutely. Riding a 5 Blue Line train to O'Hare Airport in Chicago to catch an early flight. Why take a cab when I can take the subway directly there? I thought. Well, at that time of the morning, the train car was full of homeless people sleeping, a bong that had spilled juice all over the floor, and some dude who was under the influence, either drugs or alcohol, and came and sat across from me and would not stop talking to me and asking to use my phone. God, it was the longest, stinkiest, and worst subway ride of my life. I'm a couple hours from Chicago, so O'Hare is the best place to fly out internationally. After spending 3 weeks using the subway system in Japan, taking the Blue Line at night on the way back felt like making a brief visit to a third world country. People were openly smoking and threw trash on the floor. I could now wait to get off. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe for more videos.